Weapons. Brand new film that just got released today. It's a horror film, and I managed to catch an early release showing of it yesterday. And I have some thoughts. This film is directed by Zach Krieger, and Weapons is the second full-length feature that he has directed up until this point. His first was a film called Barbarians, which came out in 2022, a relatively successful film that was met with some mixed reception. Now, I want to preface this by saying that I am not a horror fan by any means. In fact, the only time I actually watch horror films is when my wife is watching horror films and I just happen to want to spend time with her. So, horror is not typically my thing. So I go see the film. This is the start of my new YouTube channel. I just happen to love films, I love TV, I consume a lot of content, which I'm sure a lot of you that are watching do. And I figured, you know what, why not? Let's just get on YouTube, share my opinion, and try to find some common ground with a bunch of folks I don't know, and we'll see what comes of it. So, now that that's out of the way, let's get to the film. Now, the central story behind this movie is that one night at exactly 2:17 a.m., 17 children wake from their beds, walk outside of their houses, run off into the darkness, never to be seen again. Now, all 17 of these children attend the same school and are all in the same class, but there's a total of 18 students in the class, and one of them stays behind. Now, that's all I knew walking into this thing. I figured, okay, the rest is going to be about, okay, what happened? Where did they go? Who's responsible? Why is there only one kid left? What does he have to do with it? You got your introduction to your main characters. You got normal everyday life as it's normally happening with nothing going on. And all of a sudden, weird occurrences start happening. Supernatural phenomenons are occurring with no explanation. And all of a sudden, you're greeted with this ultimate evil that is wreaking havoc and, your typical horror movie flow. This movie did something completely different, and it wasn't something that I was expecting walking into it. I'm actually pleasantly surprised at how they pulled it off. You do get your typical jump scares and your adrenaline pumping moments, but there are things in this film that I actually wasn't expecting. And that's where things get interesting. I thought this was just going to be your typical horror film that's set up with a point A and a point B, and it's a straight line from one point to the other. This film ditches that typical formula and is actually told from the perspective of 6 different characters, and that was something that I was not expecting. You really don't see that in too many horror films. Last time I actually saw that was in a film called Vantage Point and another movie called Crash, which is kind of showing my age a bit. Both of those movies came out in the mid-2000s, but it's neither here nor there. Now, I've never seen a horror film run with this type of intentional storytelling, so I actually thought that was really well done on the director's part. Now, this movie is a bit of a slow burn. It's about 2 hours. Technically, I think it clocks in at 1 hour and 58 minutes, but the pacing is actually really well done. And I think it really benefited from telling the story from 6 different perspectives because I always felt like I was engaged. It didn't feel like things dragged on with not too many things happening. Every time a new perspective was introduced, I found myself, okay, trying to figure out what's happening. What is this person's viewpoint on a particular situation? For a horror film, I actually thought that was well done. And then on top of that, you add some solid performances from Julia Garner and Josh Brolin, which really just made the story shine. Julia Garner's character plays the teacher of the students that have now gone missing. Her character's name is Justine. Josh Brolin, he plays one of the fathers of one of the missing boys. And the central conflict obviously being with missing children. Those two in their performance really made that feel relatable, right? You could see and feel the impact on this community that is now missing 17 children, and you really feel that. And I think they did a really, really good job with their performances. Horror films aren't necessarily known for Oscar-worthy acting or acting performances, but I think these two did a really, really solid job. It felt real. It felt relatable. Now, being that this film officially releases today, there's a lot of early buzz about this movie. The director is basically being looked at as the next potential big voice in the horror genre. A lot of people are really looking forward to this movie, and from what I've seen from a lot of different reviewers, they've got some pretty high marks for this film. But I don't think that's entirely accurate. To preface this, I did enjoy this movie, right? I like films that take risks. And tries to do something different. And I think they achieved that with the telling of this story from multiple different perspectives, especially for a horror film. But I will have to say, ultimately, when the credits rolled, I don't know if I was totally satisfied, right? There was a resolution at the end of this film. However, I don't think that resolution, in my opinion, was satisfactory. I felt like I had a lot of questions of how everything played out. I think there were some things that weren't touched upon that kind of left me a little confused. Now, I don't know if that was done intentionally, but it's not like this film is like Inception, where you get a resolution, but then you're left with one massive question at the end, right? Is he awake or is he asleep? And then now that's forcing conversations after the fact. That's not what this film, I think, intended to do. The questions that obviously I'm not going to bring up right now, because obviously that would spoil the majority of the movie, but it was a good movie. I enjoyed it. I was thoroughly pleased going through the different perspectives of the various characters, but ultimately I kind of walked out a little unsatisfied. That's just my personal opinion. Look, don't let me dissuade you. If you are into the horror genre, if you like horror movies, go out and see this. Give this a chance. Make up your mind for yourself. You very well may like it. Like I said, I did enjoy this movie. It did something different, which I really appreciated. I was engaged. I was in tune. I was really focused on what was going on. But ultimately, when I walked out, I was kind of like, okay, well, is that it? I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it was not a good film. It was definitely a good movie. There's a lot of surprises, a lot of things that I didn't anticipate. Me personally, I just felt like the ending probably could have been a little bit better, and they probably could have answered some things that wouldn't have left me as confused as I was. But if you've had a chance to go see this, let me know what you think in the comments, right? Am I the only one that's feeling the way I am when I walked out of it? But I'll let you all make up your mind. If you got something out of this, if you enjoyed it, please hit that subscribe button, hit the like and the notification bell for future videos. I will be doing a spoiler type review of the film coming up shortly. If you want to see that, like I said, hit the notification bell. That way you can be alerted when that goes out. Other than that, I appreciate y'all spending time with me. Thank y'all, and I'll see y'all next time.